I'm live. Good. Question is it live on the right thing or did it put it somewhere else? That's all I'm trying to figure out. Every time I do this, it's like, hey, it's gonna do its thing on the last stream's stream. Okay, it actually is working now. Good God. Not to mention that my computer decided, like, I swear, like, every time I try to stream the studio, it's like, hey, you're gonna have some random hardware failure that's gonna make it, like, fucking impossible to do anything. This is completely ridiculous. All right, I want to get comments set up on the side so I'm actually seeing stuff versus not seeing stuff. Because Lord knows I'm terrible with all of that. Okay. Yay! Yay, yay, yay. Can I pop out chat over here? That'd be great. Okay. Lovely. Hey, Juanita, good to see you. It's been a while. So, as a bit of stuff here, I'm wrapped up in my own cord here. I didn't do much this weekend. I was kind of had a fairly lazy weekend. I was supposed to edit and upload a vlog that I had recorded, but in going through that vlog, I realized that none of the stuff I talked about it is no longer relevant. I was originally planning on going to this. Oh crap! My cord's not long enough to do this, is it? Crap. Sorry. um, I was planning on going to this group critique, which ended up not happening. Um, and so as a result, I like the 90% of the vlog is nothing mattered anymore at that point. So it's like, oh, I'm talking about like, oh, I'm going to this thing and this, I'm doing this project for this thing, and it didn't happen, so it like didn't even make sense to put the vlog out. So, in efforts to continue to work on new things, and I'm also like I'm between projects. I don't really have a major painting to work on this week, so I figured let's swatch out the and start playing with the Casein paint that I picked up a couple weeks ago, as well as taking notes for first usage notes and stuff for whenever I do the video review eventually. So things I noticed, stuff like that. I've had a few awesome people in comments from that that haul video, giving me a little feedback on different things with it, and people who have used it before, which have been quite valuable. So I figure I can start doing some general swatches and mixes and seeing, you know, what to do with it and that sort of things. I figured you guys would enjoy this too. And since I didn't get the vlog done, this will just count for this week's video. So just before all of this, I was setting everything up, and my computer went through a restart, and I was like, okay, good. We'll just get this going and everything like that. And it restarted it, and then I got nothing on the display. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So I switched to a different display, which worked, but I had to like drag the 25-year-old tiny little square monitor out of my the corner of my office in order to just do that. I'm like, okay, so it's that. So maybe it's just the screen. And I'm like, don't tell me this like $300 touchscreen that I bought a couple of years ago was already broken. Um, like I went through this whole thing. Like I dragged out my laptop from 2008, the one I had in college. I plugged the monitor into that, thinking I'm like, okay, we'll have to test it, see if is it the computer or is it the monitor that's screwed up. Turns out it was the monitor. It was freaking me out, and I'm like I was like 20 minutes to stream time. You've got to be kidding me, you know. It's like, why does this always happen? So messed with that, wiggled wires, things came back. The screen light lit back up, and I'm like, oh, thank God I can actually do this, and I don't have to announce another live stream and then cancel it 20 minutes later like I always seem to do. So yay, we succeeded. So I'm going to start with a color wheel and go from there. This stuff does have an interesting odor to it. That was my first thought. I'm like, is it going to smell weird because it's a milk-based paint? And it does smell weird, but it doesn't smell like you think it would. Lener. Can't even spell right now. Just so damn frustrated. It's a nice bright orange. I believe this stuff is supposed to dry matte, or at least relatively matte colored. Interesting. Has a bit of texture to it, but it's not like an unbearable amount of texture. I do know it's supposed to sit similarly to the way watercolors do, but have more properties kind of like closer to acrylic wash, so. The one comment I got on that video was that it is apparently really hard on your brushes. But I'm already hard on my brushes, so that wasn't. I'm definitely gonna need more of this this yellow. So I got. If you guys missed that haul video, I got 4 colors. Well, three plus white, I should say. Cad yellow light, cadmium red scarlet, and Shiva blue deep, which is phthalo. The yellow definitely seems to be sitting in the bristles more. That's interesting. It's really staining my bristles. Important to write all that stuff down. Definitely doing some things to my bristles for sure. I do really like sort of the more flatter, matte look I'm getting out of this. I don't normally care for like super matte colors, but yeah, this is actually quite nice. So anyway, yeah, weird technical glitches as it always seems to be. So yeah. More of a bleedy color wheel here. I like doing that. I don't feel constrained to just be like color, 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 color. Cause I'm like, oh, this one's more this way, this one's more that. We'll just blend one into the other. Definitely. Oh, I don't know what it is. Making a color wheel, you always say, ooh, there's actually some little bit of separation going on in this tube. Some separation. Actually, like each of the colors seem to have a slightly different property on each other. Now, it could be a pigment-based, issue, but it seems kind of strange that it's this different between each of the colors. It's a little inconsistent. Very bright, vibrant green, though. Yeah, it's phthalo blue. It's going to do that. That stains those bristles. That is wild. Wow. That is really wild. Like just a little bit of color on that, and boom! Bristles are really stained out. They weren't kidding about it being hard on your brushes. This is a pretty regular brush for that I use in my acrylic painting, but I decided I have a backup of one of these, so I figured I'd be better to use with this one. Will give me a better understanding of what to expect. I might actually have to go wash the bristles now because there's so much of this green in here. I can't seem to mix out away from it, which is rather interesting. All right, I gotta go clean this. This is so wild. Okay, this staining is actually becoming a very, very, very immediate concern. So I'm employing. I soaped it, and it's some of it came out, but not a ton. I'm employing some rubbing alcohol. It's barely coming out. I might have to switch to a different brush. A different one that I wouldn't mind losing. Wow. Extra notes. Um, might have to exclusively use a knife for these paints, because this is some next level staining that is not okay for brushes. Starting to get there. Oh man, that is so wild. Damn it, I need paint thinner. Like this is not coming out. I've got freaking headphone cord. When I bought this headset, I was like, next time I get a headset, I'll get the wireless one. And I'm like, I'll just get the wired one again. And I regret it every damn time I put these on. All right, paint thinner, please work. Like, holy hell. Nice velvety matte finish. I really like that. Like, damn, man. Okay, the paint thinner is actually working. Thank God. I got to look at a different brush. Wow. Yeah, you can. You know, I'll be talking about that in the review. Can't even finish a color wheel. I'm like, oh my God, this is destroying my brush. I need to stop. Jeez. Wow. Still probably not going to get it all out, but that is some crazy crap. Okay, already dry on the palette. It's dry on the palette in what, like 10 minutes? Maybe less? That's pretty damn fast. God, like, this brush was already kind of getting worn out, but I feel like it just ate through those bristles and splayed them out faster than anything else I've used in a while. All right, let's grab a brush I'm actually less afraid to lose. Let's see. Jeez. This will work. This is an old, cheap, crappy brush. So now I have heard that you can, at least to some degree, reactivate these with water, and by the looks of things, yep, I absolutely can. I think there is a point where it kind of cures and then you can't anymore, but yeah, this is kind of up in here somewhere. Get a little bit bluer. A little bluer from that green. There we go. And a little bluer still. Yeah, that's really crazy to have it like almost immediately start destroying the brush within a 10-minute period. That's really kind of wild. I'm not sure why Catholic 3 your message keeps showing up as redacted in chat. I'm really not sure what's going on with that. It's very strange. As far as I'm concerned, as I know, there's nothing blocking that in my settings, but yeah, that's really weird. Unless you're deleting your own comments, in which case that's on you. But yeah, not sure. Anyhow, In the meantime, I'm just gonna go ahead and keep talking. Even the blobs of paint are tacking up really fast. Like the bigger ones on the palette. That's pretty wild. So you definitely won't be mixing up any bigger blobs. That's pretty wild. I already have some mad respect for people who use Casein on a regular basis. It definitely doesn't feel it's already so different than everything else I've ever touched. But hey, that's the joy of playing with new media, for sure. Okay, we can probably start leaning bluer now, like more and more bluer. Yeah, that's really wild. Like it's like, and I thought acrylics dried fast. Like holy crap. Just a little red. A little more red. Man, that red hit that like a bomb. Yeah, the inconsistency in the colors are really weird. There's very few paints have I ever used that are this inconsistent from color to color. It's pretty wild. Really different. Really, really, really different. Yeah, I definitely want to play with some doing these. I definitely feel more for knife work. I don't feel I don't think a brush is the most useful or consistent um, application of this color. I'm just not getting I'm not getting what I need to out of it, which is just really odd. Hmm. Yeah, really crazy. Even mixing with the white, then like playing with what that does to those colors. Like I don't. Again, I'm. This is so new to me. I'm not even entirely sure how it's made. Um. So it could be an issue just with you know, um, how certain pigments do or do not accept, you know, the binder in that way. I can definitely tell why these are a little less popular too, because they're, again, like this weird inconsistency is just bizarre. Actually, it even seems to be when I'm mixing in the color with the water too. It's like separating and stuff. It's really strange. Yeah, the weird inconsistencies are really bugging me. Not to mention how much it's really sticking in the brush. I mean, the finish looks really cool with that really kind of soft matte finish, but I'm just not feeling it like at all. And because it's sticking in the brush, when I'm going back to, you know, trying to get pure color and I can't get it out of the brush, it's like, well, now we've got the problem of having to have like 8 different brushes for each of your colors. Like I can't just rinse it out and then go into a new color. Yeah, I am gonna try to do a small painting with these tonight besides the color wheel, but so far here, I literally cannot get the color out. Between that and between, yeah, the mineral spirits seem to work the best. I probably should have looked at what the actual preferred thinning medium and solvent is, but it looks like mineral spirits are going to be what I need to actually rinse to get the color out with. Hmm. All I'm trying to do is mix yellow and white, but I couldn't get the color out. Really strange. So yeah, so here I should be able to then reactivate this. Yeah, sorta, to some degree, you know. That little yellow. I mean, the colors are strong and very, very potent. That I appreciate. But the inability to pull that out of your brush to be able to switch colors makes it really hard to mess. Like in here now, like I rinsed that, but I'm trying to mix this, but it's brown because I'm literally seeing flecks of dried blue paint that I couldn't get out of the brush. That's a problem. Definitely not a medium for brushes. Like, holy crap. There we go. That's that lighter peacher color. Yeah, this is really wild. All right. Basic color wheel. What did I learn? Half a page of stuff, apparently. Yeah, this is really weird. I definitely do not trust this with a brush under any circumstances. I mean, unless you're going out of your way and just getting like cheap chip brushes. I'm not. I'm not using. I'm not using any brushes at all for this whatsoever. It's just. It's not doing it. It's not doing anything it needs to do to be a viable medium for a brush whatsoever. I'm glad I used brushes that I wasn't afraid to lose, because if I ruined one of my good brushes for this, I would have never forgiven myself. Okay, so I'm gonna put that aside. Brush wise, anyway. Put this aside. I'm gonna get another piece out. This is just a piece of watercolor paper. Little 140-pound cold press. Um, should have something a little smaller here. I've got these little cards here. This is also, I think, technically 140-pound cold press. It's a little bit rougher and a little bit cheaper. So to make a good little test piece. I'm gonna grab a knife and mess around with some little extra color here. Yellow, plenty of yellow sitting out. Yeah, the amount of separation that's happening, pigment to thing, just adding a little water to this is pretty crazy. I would not have expected that. All right. So knowing me, classic little sunset piece is always the perfect little test for any given media. Like, it smooths out. I can get it plenty thin. Maybe even my color shaper would be good for this. The one I picked up for one particular video and haven't touched since. Like, if it's gonna dry fast, I might as well even lay it on kind of thick. Probably end up doing another similar little piece like this for when I review it. But this is a good test before I do that. One of the things you guys don't really get to see is a lot of times I am doing a practice before the practice, or even a lot of tutorials. I'll end up doing a smaller version of it before I bring things over for the actual tutorial. So I'll the one I think of is this is the brick wall tutorial, the stone thing. I did I have both of them somewhere. I don't want to dig them out right this second. I did a smaller test before I even took it before I dragged the camera out and then I scaled it up like 2 or 3 times based on what the test was before I did the tutorial. So when I did the tutorial, I'm like, okay, this is this process, and this is how this should look. Actually, even the mixes don't feel as vibrant as maybe they could. I don't know, just could be the little bit of white that I had mixed in with the yellow, but the color doesn't feel real clean. And given the price of these tubes, it already doesn't feel. Wow, God, this is some weird. God, the yellow really separates. It's like it's weirdly separated. Yeah, definitely. It's a viscosity reminds me of like poster paints a lot, like tempera for kids and that kind of thing, but with a lot less um, usability. Yeah, the separation and everything is a really like if this was maybe in like a bottle that I could or a jar that I could stir it or shake it, that would make more sense. Come to think of it, the smell is kind of like that too. Like that, it has a little bit of a like it's chemically, but it smells like a household cleaner. You know, like it could have been like a Lysol or something. You know, really hard to describe. With how fast it dries and tacks up. I mean, even with a knife painting, it's becoming a little difficult. It seems to almost get a little bit chalky as it dries. Hmm. I feel like these would be good in mixed media projects when I just need a little bit of a weird color that I can just smear out with my thumb or something. But it's just really hard to work with. In again like the weird separation, and it's just strange. It's really weird. It's really weird. Like I spray out with my water, and it reactivates everything from what I've got. But with how fast it tacks up, it's really hard to mess with. And as soon as you bring that in at night, now I can smell it again. mixes are actually starting to remind me of the craft paint a little bit. Like the blue is stickier, and the red is chalkier, and like every color is a little different in how it seems to be working. I probably should have gotten like an umber or a black or something for this, but it seems like any other medium. I'm having a harder time mixing my browns, which is not a good sign. I mean, some of it's color compatibility, but I'm actually gonna, including what's on my palette, I want to mix a purple and then dart a little yellow into it to see if I actually can manage to get a good dark with these colors. I mean, obviously I didn't get their color theory set. I kind of made my own color theory set, which could be part of the issue. But I know between those colors and the ones I bought that I should be able to get kind of close. Yeah, it's not much. Like, I might have to do this with my acrylics real fast, just to see if I can do it with the same rough color set. It could also be the lighter cadmium as well that's screwing with me. I'll go with that. That'll be fine for now. Yeah, it could be a little darker, but what can you do? So this cadmium scarlet, I've got to double check on this. So this is pure 108, which is not cadmium, I don't think. I mean, it could be. No, it is. It's slight variation on regular cadmium, but yeah, I mean, marginally better with a knife. Still feels a little too loose to even do it knife work wise. I have to see now if I'm not completely losing my mind color wise. I mean, I like what it like the fiery oranges I'm getting out of here are really cool, especially when it's drying more matte. But I don't know, something feels weird with this. I mean, something is weird with this. Yeah, this is actually probably the first and only time since messing with probably the craft paint the first time around. No, I need a different palette. Little palettes over here. There we go. Little square one. Um, one of the few times I've seen a paint so inconsistent tube to tube, and even color to color. Like this is the separation and like that's gonna be. I can already tell that this is not gonna be a positive review. This stuff is really strange. But yeah, so the only phthalo I have in acrylic is open, so I gotta just use that. God, I gotta clean the crap out of this thing at some point. That's that. That's cad red. Like I feel like I should be able to get darker. I'm not sure if I have anything that compares to that cad lemon. So I might mix the acrylic with that in addition to my regular yellow, which is the cad medium, which is a lot oranger, just to see if there is that difference. Oh wait, no, the Ben's yellow is like that. That might work. Oh yeah, that's 100%. That is a lot closer. Um, you squeeze the color, put it right back in out into the. Actually, with that and with a little bit of the oranger the oranger stuff sitting out on the palette, that should be fine. Yeah, like this is so weird that it's bugging me this much. Hey Jacob, what's up? Because I have to be able to get it darker than that. Like there's no way. There's no way it's just that. Like this has got to be an issue with the. Yeah, that's. It is still not 100%. Yeah, I will put a little bit of that out and down. I have no idea how that'll even mix with acrylic. It probably won't, but just having it there as a color reference is a good thing. Okay, so that's the benzimidazolone light, I think, or medium. That's light. Okay, yeah. So that's probably the most comparable thing I have in acrylics. I got to see if I can actually mix either that similar dark or if I can get it. I feel like I should be able to get it darker, just based on what I know about acrylic. That and a little yellow. Maybe not. Maybe it is about the same. I mean, it's bluer, but all right. Let me see this side by side. I am slightly warmer on that yellow, but I don't think it makes that big of a difference. I'm getting another test card out. So I'll mix some of that blue over here as well. That's left. Make that just a little darker. So this is comparable. So this left side is the Casein darkest that I could manage. Write this down. Well, I keep looking. Is it E-I or I-E? And all of these will probably show up in the video review at some point. Oh man, the acrylic one is way darker. And short of the slight variant in the yellow. I mean, they are notably comparable, but there's a lot richer color out of the acrylic than out of the Casein, like by a large margin. Like that is pretty wild. Probably can't see it super well from the distance, and I could hold it up, but I don't have autofocus on, so it wouldn't really matter. Yeah, even with the added blue and everything, I actually even want to take a little water on my finger and thin this just where I can see that, where I can see it glaze out a little. It doesn't really glaze; it just kind of like gets chalky and weird. Yeah, like the pigment's so much more rich. And by the way, both of these are phthalo blue. The blue is supposedly the same, but those are two very very different mixes. Yeah, and I'm 100%. The casein feels so much like bottled tempera that you use when you're a kid. It's exactly what it feels like. Um, that's probably my biggest takeaway from this tonight. I have a little bit of some old tempera sitting around in the back of the studio here. Back of the couple of these that are left. Yeah, I don't even know if they make these anymore. The Palmer Prism. Um, it just says poster paint, but that's what it is. It's tempera. Uh, you know, water reducible. I haven't picked this stuff up in a long time. Yeah, not so much on the smell, but yeah, it feels so remarkably similar to the tempera. I don't even know if this is still good. It looks like it's almost mostly dried in the bottle. I bet I can mix these together and it would be indistinguishable. Why is this? Oh, the little seal is in the underside of the. Okay, there we go. That's why. Mm-hmm. I bet this is gonna feel really similar, and the difference being, yeah, poster paint. Yeah, I have not used that in 20 years at least. No, wait, hold on. What year we got? No, 15. 14. 14 years. Not quite 20. 14. The poster paint's a lot more consistent. More test cards needed. That's why you've got a lot of stuff laying around. All right. It's the 14-year-old poster tempera. I'm going to mix it with the casein. It feels really close. It feels really, really close. The poster paint actually spreads a lot better and is more workable. I'm gonna add a little bit of water to it. Yeah, it is texture. The poster, the tempera poster, is texturally indistinguishable on the brush. 100%. That's really funny. That 14-year-old poster paint that I picked up for what, $2-3 a bottle is basically identical when it comes to the brush feel. That is wild. And again, I really love the soft sort of velvety matte finish that these are getting, but they're just so hard. Like I really thought it was an understatement when I got the company. Oh, the Casein's going to be really hard on your brushes. Literally, that is the biggest understatement of the century. Yeah, review will definitely be coming soon. Now that I have all of these notes. Wow, yeah, that is wild. That is absolutely wild. Okay. Now, where are we? Yeah. Time. It's only 8:30. I got plenty of time to mess with stuff left. Okay. Uh, okay. So, I guess the last major test I can really think to do is, well, I'll have to see like actual cure time, because I know after you let it sit for a few days, it becomes like super permanent. And right now, I can still mix it and lift it up with water, which is fascinating. I want to see what it does on a really thick application. So I'm just going to squeeze a big blob out and smear it and let it dry. E-I. E-I-N. E-I-N. Thick test. And I'll just blob all of them out. And then just do like a drawdown. White, yellow, red, blue, yellow. God, that separation is the really the biggest issue I'm having here. Like I wouldn't think I'd have to sit here and bleed the tube like I would with a watercolor. Like that I would at least expect, even with a more premier brand. But like the weird separation, the weird inconsistencies, like so far these were nowhere near worth the money. Maybe I got a bad batch. I don't know. All right, I need my big spatula knife. Yeah, my biggest complaint though, among everything else, is just how much it's staining the bristles. Like that is so crazy. Do I answer questions? Yes, load me up with questions. Whatever it is, any medium, anything. I love answering questions. And I love taking huge diversions from whatever I'm talking about to answer a question. So, yeah, go for it. Okay. Thick paint test. Yeah, I'll have to keep an eye out on cure times. Like the colors seem really vibrant until you start mixing with them, and then they just dull out. Um, yeah, for a long time I used to put just like, oh yeah, Q&A as always in the description box. And I got used to just not putting that in the description box anymore because people haven't asked questions in a long time. So, yeah. Okay. Da, 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 da. Da, 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 da. Okay. Awesome. Well, shit, I've learned a lot about this stuff tonight. I have a whole page of notes. I'm not sure if there's any other tests I can really do at this point without causing more problems than I've solved. um, hmm. Maybe just like cross-compatible mixes? Like, what does it do with oil? What does it do with watercolor? What does it do with acrylic? That actually is a good test. I want to play with that. Interchangeable mix. I should have a slightly bigger piece here. Not that one. Paper drawer. Oh god, not those ones. Those are special. Okay, we'll get two more of these samplers out. Oh, the ADHD video. Yeah, there's two HD videos. There is a newer one. If you only saw the first one from like 3 or 4 years ago, there is a slightly updated one where I talk a little bit about strategies. But I think it's going to be different for everybody when it comes to art. I mean, is it like, are you approaching, your art in a more professional sense? Are you doing it more in a hobbyist sense kind of thing? Oh man, that just smears. Wee! Smeary! Um, I'm not sure if like art specifically is any different than any other task really when it comes to like ADHD stuff. Um, for me, what helps considerably is, at least when I'm doing art, is it kind of shuts my brain off from the distractions. My biggest my biggest hurdle most days when it comes to when I know I really need to sit down and work on a piece or something is just the forcing myself to get started. Um, that is like nine times out of ten, it's just like uh, especially for like an evening. So like most of the time, I usually only paint on the weekends, and it's just in the mornings. So like Saturday morning, I'll get up, like 7 or 8 o'clock, usually closer to 8 these days. Um, hop in the studio and work for between like 3 and 5 hours, and that's all I'll do in the studio that day usually, unless I'm like really in the zone. But that doesn't happen as often as I'd like. Um, so I might not be putting necessarily the same amount of hours in that a lot of other professionals would. Um, but the time that I am putting in is really, really highly concentrated in what I'm doing. So it's like what someone else might consider an 8 hour day in the studio, I can get done in 4 hours. Uh, just because I'm really focused on what I'm working on, or in the case something like this where I'm doing this for 2 or 3 hours, or probably just two tonight. Where are we at here? Timing. I just got to see how long I've been streaming because I don't know. Already at an hour. It's I've been streaming for an hour. It honestly feels like it's been 10 minutes. So I kind of if I'm in the zone, I kind of lose track of time. That works. But it's a lot again. A lot of it is just getting started and figuring out. Actually, I think mixing all of these together is probably the best choice for this. Hold on a second. I gotta think for a minute. EI and mix plus watercolor. Oh, I've got watercolor gouache. What are my other things I want to throw into this? Um, watercolor gouache. Do I have any other like actually different paints before I say watercolor and gouache? Hold on. Watercolor gouache inks. A layering test would be useful as well, but I can do that on any of these. Um, no, I guess I'll go watercolor and gouache. Okay. Anyway, back to the ADHD thing. Yeah, like with anything else, it's it's like you set reminders. You have. I structure my life in such a way that um, putting in art time doesn't ever feel like a chore. Um, I've structured my art career as well as my life like that. My studio space is in my basement, and I get home from work. I walk through my garage door into the basement, and I have to come through this space every single day. Um, so whether or not I'm actually putting in brush to canvas time, or actually a lot of times I just kind of paste the floor in the studio, and it makes me really happy and it clears my mind just to be in the space. Um, and I think that's one of those things that a lot of I would say not only a lot of artists probably either don't talk about or don't really acknowledge, um, but I think a lot of people in general wouldn't, regardless of ADHD artist, ADHD designer, ADHD gamer, or whatever. Like having a specific space for that you can be in order to pursue your craft is vitally, vitally important. It's obviously might be a little different, if you're confined to your parents' house and you don't live on your own or whatever. Um, but even when I was at my parents', I kind of like I took over their basement, which was the original Cinder Block Studios before I moved. Um, And so much of that was very much just I have to have a space I can escape into. Um, yeah, I guess that's long rant. I don't know if that helps at all. Um, and I'm definitely not perfect. I get into funks where I'm not doing art for like 2 or 3 weeks. Um, but like what I appreciate about like tonight. Tonight's a perfect example of this. I have a painting sketched out, but I was just had no motivation to work on it whatsoever. And motivation's pretty huge. As a fellow ADHDer, you would probably know that. Um, so it's like if I can't motivate to work on the thing I need to work on, let's try to do something tangential that will allow me to uh, refocus my mind a little bit. A lot of times, the dishes in my sink will pile up, and what gets me to do them is I'm like, all right, let's throw on like a 2 hour. Uh, I was trying to think of the other day. I was watching an episode of Neil deGrasse Tyson's Star Talk. He was with comedian Russell Peters. It was from 4 years ago. I'm like, how did I just find out that he did this collab with Russell Peters? Like now, like damn, I love Russell Peters. Um, so I had that going on in the background while I was getting my dishes done because like I find that like videos for me are a lot of my mental backlog timer. Um, where it's like I can get stuff done if I just throw something else going on in the background. It's also why I put the radio on when I drive because I need that bit of a way to focus on two things at once, so I can only focus on one thing at once. It's not, like for anybody else, this probably makes absolutely zero sense, but um, yeah, I think that's the best answer I can give. It was really rambly, um, but I like yeah, it's like strategies are going to be different for everyone. You try something for a while and see what works, and even in my own life, it's like I'll get a routine down and like I'll be good with that routine for a month and a half, and then everything will explode, and I'll have to come up with a new routine again. It's you're in just a constant state of flux, and not encouraging this, but a lot of people self medicate, as I am doing this evening, as other ways to shut your brain off. It's not healthy to do it, but you everyone develops their own coping mechanisms. Speaking of which, I need a little more rum. I'll be back. So I thought of this as I was on my refill. Also, fantastic tip if you have any kind of drink in the studio. I keep my my painting water on the table and I keep my drink on the countertop behind me so I never make that mistake. I've come close a few times, but I've never actually dipped my brush in my drink. Anyway, thing I thought of, which I think I just forgot too. Yay, bad memory. Shit. No, I don't remember. Upstairs, this and the strategies with. Nope, no idea. It's gone. Anyway, mixing casein with other materials. All right, I'm gonna grab some used paint. Adjust my chat window too, because things look a little weird over there. Yeah, I don't take medication. I never have, and I'm. I know it's really a life changing thing for a lot of people. I'm a pretty big opponent of the idea that you have to dull your senses with meds if in order to feel normal. That just I don't know, that just never sat right with me. I imagine if I go back to school, I might need medication, but I have no intention on going back to school because I hated school. I hated high school, I hated college, and while I did end up with an associate's degree, I have no intention of going back to school because fuck that. For multiple reasons, but you know, story for another day. But in recent years, I've come to understand my ADHD better, and in being mindful about it and knowing how I get off track has been, I think, the most liberating thing. Where I'm like, okay, don't sit this here because you're gonna lose it. So take the time to put it back where it goes first, then finish what you're doing. I'm still trying to remember what the hell I was trying to say before, and it's driving me nuts now. It'll as soon as I stop thinking about it, I'll remember. I'll probably be answering somebody else's question at that point. But yeah, anyway, I could rant about it for a long time. If you are not on my Discord community, I highly suggest joining. For specifically for questions like this, and we could have a deeper discussion of it there. And that's in many ways why I created that community, was to have the longer conversations. But yeah, it is a good question. I wish I had a better, more thought out answer for you right now, but and instead of just ranting about it for 20 minutes. But yeah, that's I think the best answer I can give you, off the top of my head anyway. I should really look at chat. Lean a little more casein into that to see what that does. And then blend that out. Finger blend it out. Like the acrylic's the only one I can do like a multi-mix for to get a better baseline. The oil, watercolor, and gouache, I'm just going to have to pick a color with, which sucks. Yeah, anyhow. Hey Anna, how you doing? Nice having you here. Saving out to move out of your parents. That's where I was. Shit, when did I move? I've been in this house since 2017. Wow, crap! I can't believe it's been that long. The only reason I know that year is because I repainted a little placard that's by my front door. That's a welcome sign, and the one I did, actually, it needs rehabbed. I found out that my the little detail I did in cadmium red has faded in the sunlight, or the off sunlight, and just the weather. So something to mess with for a future video for sure. But yeah, that was because I changed the thing to as established 2017, which is when I put the date on that one. So that's how I know when I moved. God, yeah, that's wild. 7 years in this house. That, man. Anyway, so yeah, I totally get where you're at with saving up money, and it's awesome that you're able to stay with their parents to save up money to move. Like that is a privilege that should not go overlooked. A very good art friend of mine, she didn't get kicked out, but her life with her parents was not um, ideal. Let's just leave it at that. And she really had to kind of build a life for herself from the ground up. And to this day, I am endlessly in awe of. Um, I totally get it when it's like you gotta work with what you can get, and in her case, she had to really fight for not even to have a place of her own, but to have space to do art. But yeah, like especially when you're living with your parents, it's like how much space are they going to let you have? I actually even noticed. I gotta put my headphones down to get some oil. Hold on. Um, when I was in college, I found that I spent a lot of time, at least with the program I was in, I had my own room. I spent some. It was obviously half the size of a regular dorm room because I'm half the size of that. Um, Actually, if the Catholic guy is still here, I was in the seminary, by the way. That's a longer part of my story that does not warrant going into this evening. But when I say college, that's usually what I'm referring to, especially when I talk about having my own room. Just my college experience was as a seminarian for like half of it. Um, anyway, the point being of that story, I just also decided I grabbed my brand new alizarin yellow since I oil and everything else. Um, I spent a lot of time just painting on the floor in my dorm room. I had a little box that um, do I still have that? I don't know. I feel like if it doesn't exist somewhere, I only recently threw it away in the past 2 years. But it was just a plastic container about this big, with had two big rubber bands around it because the lid it's supposed to be like steel clip top lid. One of those big ones you can find at like Walmart. Um, it was only maybe about that thick, but it was what I was able to take with me like 2 or 3 canvas boards, a bunch of paints and brushes, and I would that's what I took to college with me. So it wasn't my entire set, but didn't stop me to continue to order big packages of art supplies in college either. And I found through doing that, and I really loved painting more than I loved studying, and that was one of the jumping off points for me. Um, as a professional, because I was like, I don't care about sitting here and trying to learn about such and such philosophy. I did enjoy philosophy, but at the same time, it was like I don't want to sit here and read. I want to sit here and paint. I want to get up and do something. I can't just sit here and read and take notes. Like that isn't me. Um, so a lot of my college experience was just finding ways to paint because I had the itch so bad to do that. And interestingly, one of my seminary brothers is the reason why I'm now a professional artist. Because I never wanted to be a professional artist. Somewhere on YouTube is my artistic story, and it's in a video. You can and I do more coherently talk about it in that sense. But uh, one question really set me off, didn't it? This guy, I can barely even remember his name, but I had a small painting on my wall, and it's the first painting I ever sold. I sold it to him for like $20. He's like, "Hey, can I buy that off of you?" And I'm like, "No, you can just have it. It's fine, whatever." Like, I had no concept of selling my work at the time. And he insisted, like, "No, I want to buy that from you." And I was like, "What?" Like, it's such a foreign concept. He's like, "How much you want?" And I'm like, "I don't know, $20." And he goes, "Yeah, deal, boom." And I'm like, "Whoa!" And like that was the one moment in my life where I was like, "Huh, maybe I make things that people like enough maybe I could kind of do this, like it was, but like I never, part of never really wanting to be a professional artist was because I didn't want to sacrifice my passion for the sake of a paycheck. There's a lot of artists to go into, working for studios, and not, I don't want to bash on that in any capacity, because that's how we get, well, it used to be how we get media, and now we have AI, which destroys all creative careers. Um, that's another topic for another day. But uh, um, shit, what am I even saying at this point? Grab the Bohemian, that'll work. Um, oh, damn, I lost that train of thought too. Anyway, something about being more passionate about studying than or painting than study. Oh yeah, the sold painting. That's how I got started selling stuff. Is one random guy thought my work just deserved money, regardless. And now I'm selling paintings for a couple $100, a few times a year or so. And hopefully, if I sell some of the big ones, it'll be 1,000 or something. But fingers crossed for the bigger pieces. Um, but yeah, I can't remember the point of this story I was even trying to tell it now. Um, there was a point. I don't know what it was. Started on ADHD, went to my college experience, turned into how I became a professional artist. I don't know. I think we were talking about like the basement studio thing, and that's and like taking over that space. I think that's kind of where that started. Yeah, like I came back. I was a city away, about 2 hours from where I lived with my parents. So when I came back, I was like, I want to paint, and I just took over their basement and went to town. And then when I moved, I built my own studio, and here we are today. All those years later. Anyhow, what's happening in the comments? I stopped painting. I haven't stopped painting. The thing is, like, my work has slowed, I would say, in the past 5 years or so. Some of that is and it's carryover. It's been a little over 2 years now, but the year that I broke my wrist, through all of my like regular like my daily sketch routine, I haven't sketched daily since I broke my wrist, because as soon as I couldn't draw for 2 months, um, it really kind of screwed with my head, and I've since then, like even like 2 years later, have been struggling to create a more consistent workflow for myself. Um, but I've also found that where like I talked about this, I think, in the last vlog I did in 20 last year, 2023, um, that a lot of that also has stemmed from I've grown not only as an artist, as a person, to where I think the consistent routine is no longer, not only no longer viable, but not, it's not me anymore. It's like the like daily sketching is a fantastic way to get yourself moving and motivated and on a in a mentality to work in a creative way more often. But at the same time, for me, it was very much something I needed in my college and more young adulthood than I am now in my 30s, and I don't have the time or energy that I did when I was in my 20s. So it's a maturity thing. So again, it's like I was saying before about putting in a more concentrated amount of time when I do put in the time. And so I used to be able to crank out a painting, at least two paintings a month, if not one a week. Um, and while I probably could work myself back into that mentality and to be able to do it that much and that quickly, um, I have found that I'd rather spend a longer amount of time making one painting that's four times better than four paintings that are mediocre. Um, So that's kind of where I'm at. Like don't like it's okay to slow down a little as long as what you're slowing down a little to make is better than what you would do if you just cranked out work constantly. My friend Cam, whose gallery I showed at over last summer, he's a lot like that. We're in his career right now, he's cranking out work left and right. Um, in an early art career, especially I would say for like a gallery art career, that makes more sense. But the more you sit with and um, work on your craft, and I think both artistic maturity as well as um, physical age maturity, you just like, all right, let's take a step back and just make the best art I can rather than art just like crank out 1,000 pieces for the sake of cranking out 1,000 pieces. Um, and if you're learning to create, if you're learning to build a section, it helps you learn way faster if you're just cranking out work. But once you have a good rhythm down, it's like, all right, I know I'm in my comfort zone now to the point where I can make one painting a month that I know a client will want to buy versus 4 paintings that may or may not sell. So, and that's kind of the business side of it. It sounds really gross, but that's what I was trying to say before is the passion versus client thing. So I don't really take on commissions very much. I got to put this away. Hold on, let me think for a second. Try to be coherent. Ah, I'm dropping shit. Um, and grab some other stuff to work on while I'm over there because I'm in the zone. Now I'm going. I do have to set all this aside though, so I want to do that and this and move. So, and I've already forgotten what I was saying. I really should have said it before I got up and left. Um, Consistency and clients, right? So that is one thing that's helped with my ADHD in the long term of just getting older. Is I can't where I used to like earlier today or tonight where I'm like, oh, that I thought that thought's just gone. As long as I can trace it back, I can usually get it back. But that other one I couldn't trace back, so we're just moving on. But having the ability to choose the projects I work on. So yeah, it's like working for a studio and that like if you're happy to create whatever, more power to you. You're a better artist than I am. But I really have to uh, have the drive and interest in what I'm doing. This actually relates back to the ADHD thing quite well. Um, I have to have the drive and interest to do it while that interest is still fresh. Part of the reason why I'm not one of those artists that will work on the same painting for 3 years is because if I can't get a painting done in about a month, sometimes a month and a half, depending on the piece, I will completely lose interest in it and never touch it again. So there's a lot of projects. I actually have more than a few in my studio still that I haven't touched in at least 3 or 4 years. I'm not ready to paint over them yet, but it's one of those ones where it's like I worked on it for a little bit, I lost interest in it, and that's it. I'm never finishing it again. I don't have the drive or the passion or the interest to finish this piece. So similarly, why it's really rare that I take on any kind of client work is because the vast majority of commissions, it's like, hey, paint this for me. So the commissions that I have taken on, most of it has been pieces that somebody had a color request, like, hey, paint me one of your landscapes, but you have to use just like primarily just the two colors, purple and green. So I did that one. The most recent, which I think now is like a 5 or 6 year old project, was this guy that wanted a scene from a video game that I'd never played painted, and that was a long series of sketches to get something that was basically a screenshot done. But part of that project for me was like watching gameplay footage and being able to get interested in that world enough to do the project. Um, and the guy had also like already bought like 3 of my paintings, so it was like I know he's got the money for the thing. So um, I but I really limit myself. Very rarely take commissions at all, for that very reason, because I don't want to be doing someone else's vision. Like that's just not what I do. And as a result, I make less money, but I'm putting the work out there that I really want to make, and I feel like is better. I'm better mentally for it, and I think the work that is out there is then better as a result. Anyhow, check these things out. This is a lot of weird color experiment stuff that I was doing 2 weeks ago, I think. The left side, I was scribbling with chalk with my niece, and I'm like, I want to use this as a base with the undercolor, and I started meshing with stuff underneath. The vast majority of both of these are just water and acrylic ink, and it's watercolor paper, so it, with a little extra water and there's some mediums and alcohol and stuff in here to help with the bleeding and everything. This has a lot more potential for a variety of things in its current size. This I do want to cut down a little bit and see where things go from there. So I'm at least, well, actually, what I really need to do is flatten this. So I'm going to hit the back of this with some water and do that first. That'll take like 10 minutes. And I can keep talking in the meantime. Lord knows I don't shut up enough. I will need my big clipboard as a weight. That is going to be important. Yeah. Man, this is a crazy conversation tonight. Or monologue, I should say. Conversation implies there's somebody else talking. Not that you guys in chat aren't talking, but, in my brain, it's like conversation implies like an in-person thing or being able to hear the other people. Another plug for the Discord. There we go. Okay. Paint the back with water. And throw it under some weight. And let it dry. Alright. That should help flatten that out. In the meantime, I will do something else on this one. Maybe this. Not sure yet. I need to think on this one, because there's potential, but I also have the edge bleed, And I was doing this on the floor. Like I would do another one of these right now, but I can't get high enough to get the drip the way I need to. Like put it on the floor and stand way above it and just start dripping with inks. Can't really do that on this table. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna have a look at chat because I feel like there's at least one other thing that came through there. Yeah, picking learning as many mediums as you can is really great. Like whatever your choice medium is, like will always I'd say be informed by everything else that you try. Like even messing with the Casein paint tonight, everything I did with that just made me be like, all right, if my acrylics were thicker like this or tacking up like this, how could I then still utilize them? So I was messing with all of that, being like, okay, when they're starting to dry in the palette, how could I better use them? It gets the gears turning, doing that. And yeah, pen and ink works really fun. I love ink work in general. When I sketch, I'm using ink, and that's probably the least the thing that takes up the least amount of space, at least physically. But yeah. After learning a subject, I want to memorize it and understand it. How do you know when to move on to another subject? Oh man, I assume you mean artistically because I feel like it's a completely different process for like if you're learning Spanish, you can't just be like, okay, I'm gonna learn French now. Um, uh, it, the thing with a lot of topics in art, I assume you're gonna mean something like value or perspective or other fundamentals, things like that. Um, the way I look at it is get to the point where you feel like perspective. I would say if you can get to the point where you can map out, you know what, this is a perfect example of, and I'm gonna get out some sketch paper for this, or drawing paper anyhow. Oh, better yet, newsprint. Newsprint's the perfect throwaway medium. Um, if I can find a blank sheet, here we go. Newsprint, and Sharpie's probably gonna bleed through. I got 8 billion pencils. Let's grab a 4B. All right. Nice big thick wide Carpenter's 4B. So something like perspective, it's one of those ones where I say you'd want to get proficient enough with it that you can do it by eye or freehand without having to think about it. So you start out in perspective using a ruler and doing the basic block out thing, and keeping everything vertical and doing it that way and being rigid about it. And then same deal again, but adding thing and 2-point perspective, and then you learn how to do it with the ruler, and you measure out all the points, and you block it out and everything like that. By the way, I have a free how to draw ebook on my website, which you can download for all of these exercises. Shameless plug. It's completely free. It's just on a PDF. You can just go get it. When I think about perspective, as a basic, as a thing to learn, when I can do this freehand and eyeball it, then I think I'm ready to move on. Well, not move on, but like put it on the back burners kind of thing. So like now it's like it's not a perfectly straight line, but I can do that and rough it out and throw in a light source and then value it and add a shadow, and like I don't necessarily say you have to get to this point, but if you're even vaguely comfortable enough to not like if you're doing 2-point perspective or 1-point whatever, if you're to the point even with a ruler where you're not questioning, oh, is it this line or is it this way or is it that way? As soon as you got that down, yeah, definitely go on to something else. Like get the base idea down. Values the same way. Like, basic value scale, light to dark, and whatever. Like value scales are a lot about learning pencil control. Nobody really tells you that, but when you do a value scale, it is about understanding light to dark, but so much about value is learning control your pencil, control your pen. With a pen, obviously a little different because it's the same value, but you learn varying levels of hatching and cross hatching to get things darker and lighter. With paint, it becomes then color mixing. light to dark, and how much of one color to add to another, and then you learn about the properties of the paint while making the value scale. Like the value. That's why I love value scales, is because they teach you like 5 different things. Um, while masquerading it as I'm learning value. Um, so in perspectives is exactly the same. Perspective, you think you're learning perspective, but in a lot of ways, perspective teaches you about line weight. It teaches you about focal points, which obviously vanishing point, focal point, um, and it teaches you similarly about pencil control and making decisions. In my ebook, I specifically, for a lot of the chapters, it's you're not allowed to have an eraser. It's like, well, I'm doing this, I'm doing these lines, and now now I want to erase this line. It's like, that's the thing, is if you're doing perspective, even measuring perspective, sort of the right way, so to speak. I'm gonna vaguely use these with a ruler one. Um, you have to be able to make decisions when you're doing perspective. So I could make the entire line, or I could stop at some point and not make the entire line. And that is a level of control and a level of making decisions. And now I didn't need an eraser because it taught me to do that. And a lot of things that are like that, you learn them. You learn them. It's art is so weird in that sense. Like, you don't really learn one thing after another so much as you learn one thing and all these other things bleed into it. So like the base concepts, like once you have a general understanding of it, you can add something to it. I've always kind of taught in a way that I call it project-based learning. And I employ the same thing with every single painting I make, even today. And it's that the way I go about things is, whatever I'm doing on my next new piece, I will do something different every single time. It might be a new brush technique. It might be, let's try to paint this new subject. But every time I do something different, and in doing something different, not just subject matter. I mean, every painting's different, obviously, but everything is an exploration of and an application of the basic elements and principles of design. It may not seem that way when I'm working or pumping out a process video, but I am thinking about those things all the time. So like learn the concept, learn what it does, learn why you need to use it. But once you kind of feel all right about it, add something else in the mix. And more importantly than anything else, don't be afraid to come back to something later. One of the worst things you can do as an artist at any level, professional, beginner, what have you, is think you know everything. Even the best realists in the world, most incredible realism painters, if they say I completely understand, if a realism painter ever tells you I completely understand value or I completely understand perspective, they are lying to you. It could be the most beautiful photorealistic portrait you have ever seen. Every one artist you ever meet is going to be like, and say, do you have a full grasp on all of these things? And they're going to say, hell no! I am learning every single day. Sorry, that was a rant. I get so damn excited. It's hard when I'm making videos now to get that excited. You kind of get yourself into a rhythm and a funk, but that's why I love doing the live shows. And I love when I get questions and comments and things, because it allows me to jump out like that. Okay. I'm going to grab my cutting. I'll leave my cutting mat aside. Actually, I'll just finesse this a little bit and try not to slice straight through the cardboard with my X-Acto knife. I'm going to want... What am I going to want for this? Probably a pastel pencil, because that'll at least rub out if I need it to. There's a blue one, right? Get the blue one out. Okay. But yeah, so like in terms of art techniques and subjects, and the other part of that too, I would say, and I do this all the time, where I'll see another artist's work, And I'll try to replicate it to some degree. Master studies, they call it for painters who are long dead. But it's like I saw this, I want to imitate it. Now, you got to be careful when you say imitate, because there's a lot of like I saw somebody paint pouring. Now I'm just going to become a paint pouring artist. It's like, try it, learn from it, and then adapt it into whatever you're already doing. If you feel you can, if you can feel you can work it through. Actually, I don't know if I have any of those paintings sitting around right now. Well, actually, I have all of these, the the little bookmarks and stuff. If you ever order anything from my online shop, you get these for free in every package. So, and that's probably what I'll end up doing with these too, is turn them into little mixed media projects like this. I learned how to do this by studying the work of a professional out in California who doesn't even do like fine art professionally. He's like a designer for a game company or something. His name's Lawrence Yang. You can search him. Pretty sure he's slowly been posted on Instagram now. I found him when he had a Blogspot account when I was in college. And he is like watercoloring wash with this ink overlay. And so I tried a few of those things. I did a whole series of those that were inspired by his work. And then I learned how to do this scraggly ink thing by putting a drop of ink down and hitting it with a can of computer duster, the compressed air. A lot of people are like, oh, did you use a straw? I'm like, well, sort of. I went like this. And it's a lot more of a violent thing, and it gets way more pushing and craggling. I picked that up from an artist by the name of Stéphane Bouchard. French artist that had a series on YouTube called The Daily Monster, where he did a daily monster drawing for like 100 days. This was years, I think, like several years before even Inktober. So I took that and applied that onto the watercolor Lawrence Yang technique, and I adapted and moved those together. So, learning again, really long answer to a really simple question, but like everything is just adapted in. I'm going to learn a new thing. I'm going to okay, let's go back to perspective again. Let's really focus it on that. Okay, now how do I use that in my next project? And personally, I think that's one of the best ways to learn and one of the easiest ways to learn, especially when you're trying to push basic art concepts into your work. Again, whether you're new to the concept or like as a professional, it's like I've never ever outgrow just sitting down with a piece of paper and drawing boxes on the perspective grid. That's really fun for me to do. And every time I do it, I'm like, oh crap, I haven't even thought about that. I've been doing it subconsciously forever, that I haven't really been thinking about it. How big? That's what I've been trying to figure out how big this paper is. 18.6 is 24. So yeah, 12 inches is centered. I figured it probably was. That was such a long-winded answer. I'm sorry. Talk about art. I just get so damn excited, and then I can't stop myself. So I'm going to cut this in half and go from there. Yeah, it's an 18 by 24 sheet, so makes sense to at least cut it in half long. And after I cut it in half this way, then I can put it on my paper cutter and do whatever I want with it. My paper cutter is limited to a 12-inch height, so I can't put anything this big in it without at least slicing a piece of it off first. Anyhow. Oh, we got the AI art question. We're gonna be here all damn night. Fuck it, I don't care. I'll stay up and I'm late to work every day anyway. Yeah. Oh, you joined the Discord too. Awesome. Okay. I'm gonna tread lightly on the AI art thing because I could rant about it for a very long time. The current set of tools that exist, whether it be like whatever program you're talking about, one way or the other, with a few notable exceptions, are 100% unethical for multiple reasons. not just in the United States, but international copyright law applies to a lot of things. The data sets that AI generators were trained on were, again, originally what most people are originally supposed to be nonprofit, but now things are being sold. The programs are being sold. The people are trying to make money on these generated images. I do think with proper regulation, because right now it's the Wild West and companies are doing whatever they want and exploiting the shit out of artists. And artists, unlike other industries like the music industry, have very poor representation. In its current state, we are in a very dark time and a very dark future if creativity is limited to producing an image. There is a much deeper conversation about what we consider art. Actually, I did a blog post years ago about like what is art and what is an artist, and I've been meaning to go back and turn those ideas into videos because I think they're more relevant now to today than they were, 5 years ago when I wrote them. But I refuse to call anything that an AI pumps out art. To me, art is something that is it's a very human experience. It's a very human creation. I don't believe in any circumstance that what is generated. One is the result of a lot of people like, I'm an AI artist. I'm like, no, you're a person who's plugging prompts into a computer and the computer's doing all the damn work for you. Like, it might have taken you 2 or 3 hours to, generate the thing through shitloads of trial and error, but that trial and error is nowhere close to what true craft and artistry is. The tools have a great potential for idea generation, for in the right hands, well regulated, and everything like that. I think there's a lot of potential in it that way. But with how it is being used and how it is being marketed and how the programs were trained is fundamentally, to me, and not even so much as a creator, but I am shocked that more people don't understand how much of this is a human problem, not just a technology. Not just somebody rambling about, I don't like new technology. No, these images are literally stealing the human experience out from under us for the sake of, look at this pretty thing that I made. I didn't make it, the computer made it, but people are claiming that they made it. It's such a fundamental misunderstanding of what the creative process is, why people create, and we're in very dangerous times to be able to reduce art to image, and that is again something I need to have a longer either video or blog post about. We can very quickly lose our humanity if art is just image, and art is a lot more complicated than just the final result, the final pick like the Mona Lisa. You can look at the Mona Lisa all you want, but unless you're in that museum looking at it, like behind the 4-inch bulletproof glass with 8,000 other people elbow to elbow, and you see that in person, it's not. It doesn't invoke the same response. And it's really a shame too, because we've lost in multiple ways as humanity. We've lost a lot of our humanity. And I used to have very dark opinions on digital art as well, which I changed my tune when I used the program. But AI is a fundamental attack, not just on art, but on the human experience as a whole. And yeah, that's as much as I can say about it without ranting for another 20 minutes. But what bothers me the most is surprisingly not so much that it steals from artists, which it 100% does. People, the AI tech bros can say all they want about how it learns like a person does. No, the fuck it doesn't. That's complete absurdity. Um, like any idiot with half a brain that has ever made anything with their two hands knows that a computer doesn't learn the way a human does. That is just fundamental nonsense. But yeah, I think the bigger issue is that we are surrendering our souls as humans for the sake of just faster, better, cheaper, and that's what bothers me about AI more than anything else. And I should stop talking about that because I could just keep making the same loop over and over and over and over again. Might lead to handmade art going up in value. It might. I mean, even in my local community, the people that are buying my work, it is like for a long time I had this issue with prints of being like, if there's 1,000 copies of your work out there, my original thought was, doesn't that devalue the original? Because now it's just it turned it into a commodity. It turned it into an image that anyone can have, right? Um, and then a friend of mine, my late artist friend Jim, he died about 7 years ago now. Actually, it had to have been 7 because it was before I moved. So, maybe even 8 years. Damn. Um, but he explained it to me as like the prints actually add more value to the original, because you can say, yeah, I have a copy, but the one person that can say, but I have the original, I have the physical one, the one that's real, the one you can see the brush marks on it, that makes that more valuable. So everyone can have their copies all they want, but the original has so much more potential, so much more value when people know that it exists, which helps with the prints, certainly help with, but then the original becomes, but look at this, look at the one that all of these copies were made out of. And I think hopefully potentially with enough of the BS that AI has created already, history has always shown us that technology takes several leaps forward, and legislation is at least 5 years behind that. So by the time we get around to regulating it, I think what worries everybody is it might be too late by the time it actually gets regulated, to where like billion-dollar companies are like, you can't do this to our product, it's going to put us out of business. It's like, well, you should have thought of that before you exploited a billion a billion artists. Might be worth taking a second look. But yeah, it's really nuanced. I mean, but I'm really, I haven't heard it, probably I haven't heard enough of it to be sick of it, but I'm already sick of hearing the argument of like, oh, well, it's just like a camera. It's like, it's fucking nothing like a camera. Every argument I've heard of like artists are overreacting, it's like, you just don't get it because you haven't spent the time to sit and try to make something with your bare hands. Or the one that I heard at some point was and what everyone says, it's democratizes art. Art's already democratized. Like, well, anyone can make art now. It's like, anyone could always make art. That was never, like, there's no barrier to picking up a pencil and making something. Like, that is the worst argument that the AI defenders say. It's like, well, anyone can do it. Anyone can always do it. Like, it's not a problem. All right, I said I was going to stop talking about this, and here I am still talking about it. Hopefully this is entertaining, though, because I'm losing my mind. I was really hoping somebody didn't bring up AI. Because even as a creator, I'm sick of talking about it. I just want to make my shit. All right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of these. 5, 6 by 12s. So there's still some latent scribblings of my niece, which I'm going to hold on to as much as I kind of can. So I will leave those. Like this is very clearly like an H, so I do have to hide that a little bit, but not a ton. I go that way with those two, and grab some ink, and do some spraying, thanks to some techniques I learned from or stole from other artists. I have a video on the channel that it's 5 art techniques I basically just stole from other artists. It's like and it really is that. It's like you learn a technique, you employ it, and you know mess with it a little bit more. Okay. Ink, spray, then probably a brush. I do need to adjust my water vessels because I've got 4 different solvents, 3 different solvents, and then shit. So give me a couple minutes. I'll be back. I'm probably gonna run an ad break, so feel free to skip at your leisure if it lets you. I might have hit these with some clear coat, in which case the ink might resist, but that's okay. I have a backup, and it's called high flow acrylic. Ah! Oh my god! I almost spilled that all over my. It's not a lot of water, but it's like I don't want to spill water all over my damn table. My cardboard's already bowing like crazy. Had your issues with digital for a while. Yeah, like I did too. Like so much of what I thought about digital was and I think that's another one of those AI arguments. It's like, well, people were always really down on digital, and it became a thing. It's like, yeah, but at least with digital, you're like, whether you're using a mouse, which you really shouldn't do because it hurts the shit out of your hand, or traditionally a graphics tablet like a Wacom or a Huion or whatever, such and such brand, Monoprice, like everyone fucking makes them now. Um, like it's still pen like hand drawn stuff, and slightly controversial from a couple of years ago, but my favorite digital painter of all time is Noah Bradley. His work to this day inspires me every time he drops new paintings. I've been following his work since I was in college and he was like just out of college. Like we're actually really close to the same age. Um, I'm a little hesitant to reach out to him for an interview. One, because he's a very well known professional, but he was also had a bit of a scandal that rocked his basically ended his career like 2 or 3 years ago. So I worry that I couldn't invite that onto myself. But damn, do I even if I just like do it like I might do it for my newsletter because I only have like 12 people signed up for my newsletter. By the way, sign up for my newsletter on my website homepage. For studio thoughts and projects and finished paintings, and if you live locally where I'm showing, but like an article interview kind of thing. But I really want to be able to reach out to him and talk to him at some point because his work is fucking phenomenal, And he is truly a guy that mastered digital painting. And what's even more amazing is, as good as he is at digital painting, he can do it in oils too. And it's like, fuck you, dude. Why are you good at everything? Anyway, my point being, digital work and the craftsmanship of it. Like originally I thought, and to some degree, I'm very much against the photo bashing thing. I'm just like, throw some textures in there and paint over them. I don't like that at all. Actually, if you want a less controversial digital artist, I also recommend JJ Canvas and Chris Cold, with an emphasis on Chris Cold. JJ Canvas has a lot more high fantasy, brighter colors, similar to what I do actually, but with a lot more detail and a lot more experience than I have. And Chris Cold is like dark, grungy, demons and fire and post-apocalyptic like sci-fi shit. I love Chris Cold's work. And so yeah, Noah Bradley, JJ Canvas, and Chris Cold. You talk about like my favorite painters working right now. Those three, 100%. What's interesting is my favorite painters are digital painters. Like digital art inspires so much of what I do traditionally. And yeah, like so much of what I do has come out of studying digital painters and digital techniques. Anyway, I'm looping back around to that stealing from other artists thing. But yeah, like that's what it is. Like you learn how to do things by what they say, imitation is the highest form of flattery, and it's 100% true, because it's like I wouldn't be the artist I am today without basically seeing what other artists are doing and copying what they're doing to some degree. If I did put fixative on this, it must have been workable fixative, because things are looking okay that way. I'm just going to bleed this out and then spray it. Spray. Yeah, I mean, having these three pieces as some standalone mixed media stuff could be fun. Maybe I'll throw some Casein to it now that I've learned how to use it, sort of. Yep. Classic. And what I really appreciate is the artists I've learned the most from are the ones that aren't weirdly exclusive about it and will actually answer your question. Like when I saw Bashar's work with the spray, I was like, oh my god, how do you do that? And this was, earlier days on YouTube where you don't get 6 billion comments when you're popular. And I'm like, are you using a straw? And he goes, no, I used the computer dust. And I was like, oh my god, you're a genius! The only reason I know how to wire a canvas is because I put a comment on another artist's post. I'm like, how do you even do that? And he just sent me a picture of a screw eye on the back of the wood canvas with the wire, and it's like, here's how I do it. I'm like, holy crap! Well, what a lot of people don't understand is, like, artists, the vast majority of artists are excited to tell you how they did the thing. Every now and then you will find an artist like, oh my god, how'd you do that? And they're like, no, I'm not going to tell you, and that's a trade secret. And those people don't tend to be as successful, because it's like, well, how did you do it? Oh yeah, let me tell you how I did it. There's this big arts festival that happens in my city every year, and there's a guy that's there. There's a lot of people that are there literally every single year, like clockwork. It's like the people that do the rotational arts festivals. It's their jam. Like that big arts festival is one of their big money makers every year. And there's a guy I know so the event's called the Three Rivers Arts Festival. I have a video on my channel highlighting a whole bunch of artists from that event several years ago, if you want to look into it a little bit more. I'm trying to flatten this out a little bit too, because this is driving me absolutely insane. Mind the weird angles. That did basically nothing. Awesome. So in that video, the Three Rivers Arts Festival vlog, whatever video that was ages ago, it's basically 10 minutes of me highlighting like 20 artists, 25 artists. One of them is a potter. He's in the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes of the video, called William Chirow. And he picked up this technique by watching some other potter do it, where he lays on horsehair to a pot that before it gets fired, and then burns it. And when the hair burns, it like crinkles around and creates these weird veins. And like all of his pottery has that thing. It's like, and I was asking him about it. He's like, oh yeah, this thing, and it worked really well, and I've made my career out of it. He's like, but I learned it by like I was somewhere as a pottery apprentice, and I saw some other guy do it once, and I just like loved it and turned it into my own thing. So it's, yeah, there's so much stuff in art. Like if you just ask how did you do that, people will tell you, and it's awesome. Have I ever tried an airbrush? Yes, briefly. My friend who I was talking about before, who had a mixed experience growing up with her parents, who I mentioned earlier. She has an airbrush, and the one day she brought her compressor and things for me to try. My experience with the airbrush was that while I found it interesting and useful for, I would say, small scale work, my idea of it was that I didn't see anything with an airbrush that I couldn't achieve, at least in my own work, with a can of spray paint. Spray paint obviously has its varying uses, but I would say with an airbrush you probably can get more transparent, more subtle things if you really mess with it more. But like that was really my takeaway. Is like there's nothing I can do with an airbrush that I can't already do with spray paint. With an airbrush, you need like the mechanism and the paint. I mean, I have the paint, but then you need a little compressor to stick it onto, and all the hoses and the thing, and then you plug it in. Blah blah blah. By the time I've done all that, I could just grab a can of spray paint and do it in 2 seconds, and and achieve the same result that I would have had I not. So there's nothing that I found that there's nothing that airbrush offered me that I couldn't do with another medium. And that's not to knock airbrushing. That's not to knock, if that's what you do, cool, good for you. But personally, with what I tried and what I found, with a quick test, I'm like, it was like a novelty. It was like, okay, this is neat, but I can't imagine any use for it in my work, and that's really what a lot of I would say it's a lot of things with media for me. There have been a lot of artists out there and a lot of push. You guys, if you guys watch me a long time, I am a big advocate of golden acrylics, not because they pay me, but because I just love the products, because everything they make is fucking amazing. With a couple of notable exceptions, for sure. And the big new one that they've been pushing, and other artists been pushing, and other people have really liked, is their matte acrylics, the So Flat matte acrylics. I have not bought any of them because I have no use for my acrylics to be matte. That is nothing. It's not preventing me from doing anything with when paint dries glossy. And unlike a lot of people, I mean, I can see where it would be useful. Highly graphical, very angular, abstract, modernist stuff. Sure, that's fine. But in my line of work, and in my style and my technique, there is literally no use for it. For 2 reasons, I would say mostly. One is that again, I'm not hindered by a gloss sheen when the paint dries, and 2, everything that I paint, well, most things that I paint, not everything. There are some exceptions. Usually, it's when I'm working with oils. Everything I finish gets a triple coat of some kind of clear sealer, and I specifically use gloss seal coat on every one of my paintings. So if I were to use the matte acrylics, I would then hit it with a can of gloss, so it would completely negate the purpose of using the matte paints in the first place. So like yeah, like I don't feel limited by surface sheen. Like that's just like that's the most minor thing that I didn't even really notice until I started researching different paints and stuff like that. Post college era. And I was like, oh, like, haven't you ever noticed that some paints dry glossy and some paints don't? And I was like, no, I don't notice that. Because I'm focused on the subject I'm painting, not like how the paint's drying. Like that was just really weird to me. Never really bothered to pay attention to it. Color shift's another one that I never really like. Some paints dry darker. I'm like, do they? I didn't notice. I mean, I've been using high quality golden paint for a long time, and that color shift is very minimal. But it's at some point I was actually watching an art video recently. Some other person put out. It was like, oh, it dries a little darker than it does when you paint it out, and it's like, that's just because the paint's wet. Or no, it was like it's glossy when you put when it's on the canvas, and then it dries and then it's matte. I'm like, it's glossy because it's wet. Like, what's the matter with you? I really have a mixed bag. I don't watch a lot of other YouTube artists because it 9 times out of 10 it just makes me cringe. Like I'll see somebody just like, hey, you kind of know what you're talking about, and I'm like, then they say something like, oh my god, you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. Why'd you have to say that? I was liking the video. There is one rather popular YouTube artist who I could rant about, who I'm not going to, and will not mention by name unless you guys really want me to go on that rant. But I will spare you the hot take of that particular creator, especially given his monumentally huge art audience. But I will say, generally, with a lot of YouTube artists, at least now, versus when I started, and it was like me, like 3 other people doing acrylic painting. It's really weird that everybody like. What bothers me the most. I'm not one to be like I'm bitter about not being more popular, because I'm really not. But what does bother me is when I see a channel pop up that's brand new, and like, hey, we're doing acrylic painting. Hey, you're kind of like an intermediate, beginner leaning intermediate artist, and within a year they already have like 5 times as many subscribers as I do, and I'm like, I don't mean to sound bitter, but like, I have been doing this for over a decade. The algorithm just like in every decade, in every 3 years when the algorithm changes, my stuff is never fucking favored. Nobody cares. And I'm like, you know what? Fine, whatever. But for those of you that are here, thank you immensely, because it means my particular casual style of video that's different than everybody else that gets billions of fucking views is valuable to you, and that means a lot to me. So these are some really weirdly varied things. I'm gonna do another 2 of these and then probably call it a stream. That I'll have to hide more because that's a whole landscape. We'll go that way. Actually, we'll do a couple horizontal ones. I think that would be good. Go that way with that one. Since we got a couple of vertical ones, we'll do a couple horizontal ones. That'll be fun. And then that's got way more of that crackly crap. Yeah, that's good. We'll do those. We'll do those way. Do those way. Those way, this way. That way. I put the ink away, didn't I? Of course I did. Because I'm dumb. All right. Oh, man. All right. So, what else we got? It's getting late. Damn, it's 10 o'clock. We all need to be going. We should all be heading to bed soon. I haven't even eaten dinner. I gotta shove some food in my face before I go to sleep tonight. But yeah, like the other part of it with being like other people are doing better. It's like they're doing better because they're catering to the algorithm. They're putting in the fancy thumbnail and say, "Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to my channel and this and today we're gonna be." And it's a lot of talking head stuff and not a ton of actual painting, which I have gotten better at. I definitely had more than a few people be like, "You talked about this thing and you never showed anything." Oh yeah, I'm supposed to show things. I forgot. I'm happy just talking about art supplies. Um, but it honestly feels 9 times out of 10 it feels like every video I see from like a new art creator, it's like everything looks the same. It's the same person sitting in their office talking about their thing, and then I did this project, and and then I go and I watch the thing. I'm like, every one of these, like the format is exactly the same every time, and I'm like, I mean, I guess this is what the algorithm feeds people, but it's boring. It's just boring to watch. That's why I don't watch a lot of art videos. I watch, science stuff. I watch one of the ones I come back to a lot is this channel called Whiskey Tribe. It's a little whiskey distillery down in Texas, and they do weird crap. They're like, "Hey, we made whiskey out of durian fruit, and it smelled like shit, and it tastes like shit." But similarly, this actually goes back to the learning different art disciplines thing from earlier. Is I learn and am inspired to make art when I watch non-artists. I get ideas for paintings because I'm not sitting like I'm watching you paint some random thing. Like that's not inspiring to me. It's inspiring to me to hear somebody talk about how to build a perfect wood box out of mahogany for 20 minutes. More than it is for someone to tell me how they painted a portrait. But hey, that's just me. It's what continues to amaze me of like, why do people watch my stuff? I don't know. Should I be saying all of this? No, probably not. But that's why this channel is so damn different. Because I'm honest. I'm like, why are you people watching my art? I don't understand. But it must be interesting to some degree, so. That's messy as hell. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and sit those out, let those dry, and wash my hands in the meantime. Give you guys something visually to have a look at while I clean up. Okay. Thought just now as I was cleaning up, this is exactly why, going back to the ADHD comment from like an hour ago, or that topic anyway. Part of it is having a lot of different projects going on at the same time too. It's like there's always one big project or one big painting, but I'm not afraid to diverge and have a studio day like this where it's like, let's just do a bunch of random in between stuff, and having the ability and the capability to be able to just grab whatever medium I feel like throwing out and slap it out on the table is really nice. Because I can then just like, hey, let's just I don't feel like working on the big painting. Let's procrastinate working on the big painting, and just smear some crap around. And at any given time, I do like to have a painting nearing completion and one I'm just starting. Because there are days where it's like the last 10% where I got to sit down and do like the detailing and the glazing for a lot of stuff. I'm not always in that mood. Some days I just want to like grab a big brush and just make a giant orange sky or something. And so I have like again 2 different projects or like the in between project like this to work on in order to do that. It's like, do I want to sit down and do all the little details right now? No, I don't. Also, don't have a project to do that with. I actually have a project that technically needs the big swaths of paint, sorta, but also it's in between. Like it's a weird night painting. I'm not going to get into it right now. Um, it wouldn't have required the level of freedom that these particular projects allowed me to do this evening. Between this and doing the color wheel as sort of a jumping off point, especially for everything else. So like the color wheel and stuff where we started with the Casein paint, like that is technically research for an upcoming video, but at the same time it allows me to just free my brain a little bit to do things that are more detailed when I need to. But hell, I made a mess, so that is the guarantee end result of a good studio day is, did you make a mess? Did you have fun? Yes. Cool, we're successful. Whether or not the finished results look like anything, did you have fun? Yes. Did you make a mess? Yes. We're good. That's it. That's all we got to worry about. All right. So I'm kind of looping back around on myself here. If you guys have any last questions that hopefully I can answer within a 5-minute bite-sized segment, feel free to throw them in now. This is one of my best live shows in a while too. This is great. Anything else? Yeah, I'm just gonna loop around on this actually. Before I totally wrap everything up, but yeah, any other burning questions, art or otherwise, feel free to drop them in. I'm gonna take a quick break. Okay. Breakback Mountain. Nope. No. Okay, we're getting silly now. Hey, Jacob. Awesome being able to talk to you here in chat tonight. Always happy to have someone enthusiastic. Sometimes my streams are a little dry, and I'm just sitting there working and being quiet. But when I remember to pull up a chat window and actually pay attention to it, makes the show a little bit more interesting. So honestly, thank you for making this show what it was this evening. Um, yeah, I guess I just cleaned my hands, and I probably need to do it again because I just used soap, but I need to use scrubby soap. I'm gonna go to work tomorrow. I'm like, oh yeah, there's still paint on my hands. It's like, what's that? What's that blue thing on your arm? Oh, it's paint. Yeah, all right. That's happened to me more times than I can count. All right, so that's gonna be it for this week. Honestly, I feel like this was better than me trying to shove a random vlog out that wasn't even relevant anymore. So successful live show, yay! um, so that's it for this week. Hopefully next weekend I'll have a regular art video. I'll actually have to see what's on my wall and different things that I could actually manage to pump out for next week, as long as I have the motivation and time to do so, because those are always a pretty huge factor. So yeah, that's it. Thanks guys for watching. This has been from Cinder Studios, reminding you to keep on creating. Check me out on socials if you haven't already, in the description box below. I think I talked about my newsletter at least once in this stream, so that's available as well. If you go to my website, cinderblockstudios.com, there should be a button on the homepage that says sign up for the newsletter. You can find it there. But after, with all of that in mind, keep on creating, and I will see you guys next time.